Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's incorporated it into his plan that the American cops are going to fuck up, and it's going to be part of his genius.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Obviously Alan Rickman's performance in this is like iconic, and I believe this was his American film debut at the time, so people were just like blown away when they saw him in this, and he was cast from the stage. I think it was I don't know if it was Stewart or it was McTiernan who saw him on Broadway, but when we really wanted someone who could play with the protagonist with words, because they were like, we're gonna have this guy who's gonna, he's coded a little bit more blue collar everyman. We want this character that kind of has attitude and disrespect for authority, and obviously I think Willis even himself called it like this gallows sense of humor and this reluctant hero type. But they said to move up against that, we wanted kind of a mirror image of a character who also has attitude and disrespect for authority, but is just a little bit more ruthless. And also they obviously wanted someone more educated, so that they could almost have him play with the way that he talks and his vocabulary, and even the delivery, like his elegant, slow stage-like delivery when he delivers ho, ho, ho. I was like it's unbelievable. It's just, I don't think anyone would come up with that kind of rhythm to speaking, especially when it comes to something like he's reading an action line essentially, where he's like, now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho, but he finds it to make it elegant and smooth and suave, and he's unbelievable in this. I mean, he was unbelievable in general. R.I.P. He was a god. But this, really great this
actor. Debut is unbelievable.
It is very interesting that, like, I think in another world, writing character as like, we have the working class guy versus the European educated guy, and it would just come off like in that kind of very sometimes cheesy kind of Michael Bay way that doesn't work sometimes in some of his worst films, where it's like the boots on the ground versus the nerds in the office. That's kind of like the fight that takes place in 90% of his movies. Right. And you could see that going wrong in a movie like this, but the way that they pit these two performances against each other, and the way that they actually, wield power and stuff like that. Like when he first walks in, and you get that incredible shot, because you were talking about the great opening bit when they actually just take the tower. There's like there's that really great sort of like wordless, very precise professional operation of all these characters and like choreographed movement and action, which is obviously part of great choreographed action for film, but also as this professional crew at work. It's very Michael Mann Heat. You kind of think about a little bit. Definitely. When they take on the bank, as these guys take the building.
They've done this plenty of times.
The way that that sort of sequence ends with the party happening, this sort of slow push in on the elevator as it opens, and Rickman and the henchmen with guns slowly file in with no one noticing, and Rickman just doing a big smirk.
It's so
and basically
creepy.
Being like, these companies have a legacy of greed around the globe, and you're about to experience the real use of power, is what he says, followed by him literally quoting
and you will be witness.
when Alexander saw his domain, he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. Like, this is the kind of way that he talks. And it's very stylized, and it could be absurd in another movie, especially for a movie that is, trying to be on some level kind of grounded in the way that this movie is. But for whatever reason, it absolutely rips front to back, all of that stuff.
100%.
It's pure blast to watch on screen. Great presence, exactly what you want out of a villain, and especially too because by giving them these character detail, this is what makes them memorable. This is what makes people go back to a movie like this, because they go, look, that guy had, obviously iconic villain, but also his guards are fun. Like, you remember the guard names in this movie. Yeah. Like, I think about Carl all the time. Oh, yeah. He's fucking psycho, man. That bit when the one nerd... when the nerd is cutting the phone lines one by one, and he just comes up with the chainsaw across every line in the entire building.
Yeah.
It perfectly sums up who his character is, and like you remember a beat like that. You remember a character acting psychotic in that kind of way.
And he's memorable purely based on his physicality. Like, I mean, he has I think a couple lines in here where he like screams a few things, but mostly it's just because every time he's on screen, you feel that there is a very dangerous presence here. You feel like he could pop off at any moment. He does not have the self-control that Hans does. I don't think he really has the intelligence that Hans does. He seems to go off the wall very easily. And so
I also love that long blonde flowing hair.
Of course,
it's a sight to see.
I love that in general. You would definitely see that more in like the late 80s, early 90s action films, but almost all I think I've said it a few times, but those henchmen, man, they just loved that like long, straight, flowing hair, and I love it. I think it's one of the best aesthetics that you can give to a henchman. And like for instance, we did talk about with it was one of the Dolph Lundgren movies where the alien had like the bald.
The alien had it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was like very early 90s.
I love that stuff, man. It's it's hilarious, and Carl has that, and that's definitely part of his physical performance. But just the fact that he's constantly swinging his guns around and he's using chainsaws, and yeah, he's fantastic. Little side character.
Yeah, I love that tracking shot of him sliding down the ladder. In the opening part that he does as well. Like there's really, really great. Looking movie, obviously shot by legendary cinematographer Jan de Bont, who we've talked about mostly on the show. I think because of his Verhoeven films, like we've covered Basic Instinct and Flesh and Blood, and I think he shot Ridley Scott's Black Rain as well, which is a really good looking movie.
Oh yeah, one of the best looking movies. I love that movie.
Yeah, and also this dude he fucking directed Speed, which I can't wait to do at some point on the show.